The red and blue lights bloom suddenly in Malik Carter's rearview mirror, washing the unfinished concrete walls in color like a warning flare. He exhales through his nose, easing his foot off the accelerator as gravel crunches under his tires. The construction site behind him, steel beams, cranes frozen against the dusk, falls silent except for the distant hum of generators winding down from night. Malik keeps his hands visible on the steering wheel. He's learned that lesson young. Learned it quietly. The officer approaches slowly, one hand resting on his belt, boots deliberate against the asphalt. He doesn't look at the site. He looks at Malik, at his hands, at his face. "You in a hurry, son?" the officer asks, voice casual, almost bored. Malik swallows. "No, sir." The flashlight beam sweeps the interior of the car, lingers too long on the glove compartment. The back seat, the rolled-up blueprints on the passenger side. The officer's mouth tightens. "What's a guy like you doing driving out of here after hours?" Malik opens his mouth, then hesitates. He feels it, that familiar tightening in his chest, the calculation. How much truth is safe? How much confidence is allowed? "I was just leaving work," he says. The officer laughs once, sharp and humorless. "Work," he repeats, as if tasting something sour. Malik watches the man's hand drift closer to his radio, to his cuffs. "Step out of the vehicle." The words land like a verdict. As Malik opens the door, his phone vibrates in his pocket. An incoming call from the project manager. He hasn't returned yet. The officer notices the movement instantly. "Don't reach for anything," he snaps. Malik freezes halfway out of the car, heart pounding, eyes fixed on the officer's face as the floodlights behind him flicker on, illuminating the massive structure rising from the ground. The building Malik designed. The lights come on so fast Malik Carter barely has time to register them before his instincts take over. Signal on. Slow down. Breathe. His tires crunch over loose gravel as he pulls to the edge of the access road, the unfinished building towering behind him like a half-kept promise. He rests both hands on the steering wheel, fingers spread, and stares straight ahead. The engine ticks as it cools. The smell of dust and hot metal drifts into the cracked window. The officer takes his time getting out of the cruiser. Malik watches him in the side mirror. White, mid-40s, broad shoulders. The kind of posture that assumes compliance before it's asked for. The flashlight comes out before the greeting. "You know why I stopped you?" the officer asks. Malik shakes his head once. "No, sir. You were leaving a restricted area after hours." "I have authorization," Malik says carefully. "I work here." The officer's eyebrow lifts. "Just a fraction." "Uh-huh." The flashlight sweeps the interior of the car, slow and invasive. It pauses on the rolled blueprints, then moves to Malik's face. License and registration. Malik reaches for his wallet, narrating the motion like he's been taught. "It's in my back pocket." Slow. He hands everything over. The officer studies the license longer than necessary. Malik Carter. He reads aloud. Address checks out. "What kind of work you say you do?" "I'm the lead civil engineer on the North Harbor project." The officer snorts. "That's so." "Yes." Silence stretches. The officer glances back at the site, then at Malik again. "You expect me to believe you run this place?" "I didn't say run," Malik replies, keeping his voice level. "I said I work here." The officer steps closer, lowering his voice. "Funny thing is, I've been patrolling this area for months. Haven't seen you before." Malik's jaw tightens. "I don't work nights often." "Convenient." The radio crackles on the officer's shoulder. He ignores it. "Step out of the vehicle." Malik hesitates for half a second too long. "Now." He opens the door and steps out, careful, deliberate. The night air feels colder outside the car. Floodlights click on behind them, bathing the steel skeleton of the building in harsh white light. The officer gestures, hands on the hood. Malik complies. The metal is cold under his palms. "You carrying anything I should know about?" the officer asks. "No. Mind if I check?" "I do mind," Malik says, then quickly adds, "but I won't resist." The officer smirks. "That's good. Wouldn't want this to get complicated." The pat-down is rougher than necessary. Fingers pressed too hard, linger too long. Malik stares at the hood, counting his breaths. A second cruiser pulls up. Another officer steps out, younger, eyes flicking between Malik and the first cop. "What's going on?" the second officer asks. "Possible trespass," the first says. Guy won't give a straight answer. "I did," Malik says quietly. The first officer turns sharply. "Did I ask you?" Malik goes silent. The officer pulls out his cuffs. The metal glints under the lights. "For my safety, you're going to sit tight for a minute." "You're detaining me?" Malik asks. "Yes." "For what reason?" The officer doesn't answer. He snaps the cuffs on, tighter than necessary. Pain shoots up Malik's wrists. As he's guided toward the cruiser, Malik catches sight of the project sign posted near the gate. His name is on it. Small print. Easy to miss. He wonders if the officer saw it. The back door opens. Malik is pushed inside. The door slams shut, sealing him in glass and plastic. From the back seat, he watches the officer talk animatedly to his partner, gesturing toward the site like it's evidence of a crime. Malik's phone vibrates in his pocket, unanswered. The building looms outside, silent, unfinished, waiting. The holding room smells like disinfectant and old coffee. Malik sits on a metal bench bolted to the wall, wrists free now but aching where the cuffs bit into skin. The clock above the door ticks loudly, every second exaggerated in the quiet. An officer he hasn't seen before slides a clipboard through the bars. "Sign here." "For what?" Malik asks. "Acknowledgement of detention." "I was detained without cause," Malik says evenly. "I'd like to speak to a supervisor." The officer exhales through his nose. "Everyone always wants a supervisor." "And I always get one," Malik replies. The man pauses, studying Malik's face, then shrugs and walks away without another word. Minutes pass, maybe longer. Malik doesn't trust the clock. Through the narrow window, he hears laughter, paper shuffling, the ordinary sound of system that isn't thinking about him at all. That might be the worst part, how small his fear feels to everyone else. The door finally opens. The arresting officer steps in, posture loose, confidence intact. "You calmed down yet?" he asks. "I was calm before," Malik says. "I'd like to know why I'm being held." "You were leaving a restricted construction zone after hours," the officer replies, as if reciting from memory. "I had authorization. Didn't have proof. My credentials were in my car. You didn't offer them. I wasn't asked." The officer leans back against the wall. "Funny thing about situations like this. It's not what you know, it's what I observe." "And what did you observe?" Malik asks. The officer tilts his head. Suspicious behavior. Malik lets out a quiet breath. "Define that." "Defensive, evasive, nervous." "I was stopped by an armed officer at night," Malik says. "What reaction would you consider appropriate?" The officer's smile fades slightly. "Watch your tone." "I'm watching it," Malik replies. Very carefully. Silence stretches again. The officer flips open the clipboard. "You say you're the lead engineer. That's a big title." "It comes with responsibilities," Malik says. "And a paper trail." The officer's eyes flicker. "You threatening me?" "No," Malik answers. "I'm explaining myself. Something you didn't allow me to do outside." Another pause. Longer this time. The officer clears his throat. "We'll verify your story. Until then, you wait." "How long?" "As long as it takes." The officer turns to leave, then stops at the door. "Oh, and you might want to think about how you talk to police officers in the future. Things go smoother when people know their place." The door shuts. The words linger. Know their place. Malik closes his eyes, jaw tight. He's heard it before, dressed up in different language. At a zoning meeting where his proposal was ambitious. At a conference where he was mistaken for the AV tech. At a site visit where a contractor asked who he answered to. He opens his eyes and reaches for his phone. One call. He dials his attorney, Sandra Whitfield, memorized long ago for reasons he'd hoped never to need. She answers on the second ring. Malik, I've been detained, he says. North Harbor Precinct. What happened? He gives her the facts. Clean. Chronological. No emotion wasted. There's a pause on the line. Are you injured? No. Did you resist? No. Good, she says. I'm on my way. Do not answer any more questions. The door opens again, sooner this time. A different officer enters, older, eyes tired. You made a call, he says. I'm allowed one, Malik replies. The man nods. Internal Affairs may want to review the stop. Malik looks up sharply. Why? Routine, the officer says too quickly. The arresting officer appears behind him. We're just being thorough. Malik studies their faces. He sees it now, the shift, the recalculation. You check my name, Malik says. No one answers. You check the project, he continues. The arresting officer's jaw tightens. You're still being detained. For trespassing? Malik asks. On my own site. The younger officer looks between them. Sarge. Not now. The arresting officer snaps. Malik stands slowly. My attorney is coming. That's fine, the officer says. We'll wait. Malik meets his gaze. So will the truth. The room feels smaller. The walls closer. Outside, a printer hums to life, spitting out paper that will decide how this night is remembered and how it's erased. By morning, Malik's name is already moving through systems he never sees. Sandra Whitfield sits across from him in a glass-walled conference room at her firm, sleeves rolled up, tablet glowing between them. Malik hasn't slept. His suit jacket from the night before hangs over the chair, dust still clinging to the fabric. They released you without charges, Sandra says. That doesn't mean they didn't write a story. Malik rubs his wrists. They already did, she replies, tapping the screen. Incident report filed at 2:14 a.m. She slides the tablet toward him. The language is careful, polite, poisonous. Subject displayed nervous behavior. Subject failed to provide clear explanation of presence. Officer initiated detention for safety concerns. Malik lets out a low breath. That's not what happened. No, Sandra agrees. It's what they needed. She scrolls. No mention of your credentials. No mention of the posted authorization list. And the time stamps. She tilts the screen. Off by 11 minutes. Enough to matter? Malik asks. Enough to create ambiguity, she says. Ambiguity protects institutions. Malik leans back, staring at the ceiling. What about the body cam? Sandra smiles thinly. That's where it gets interesting. She pulls up another file. Cam was activated late. Footage begins after you were already cuffed. Malik closes his eyes. He remembers the click. The delay. Is that normal? He asks. It happens, Sandra says. Usually when officers forget. Sometimes when they don't want context. A knock interrupts them. Sandra's assistant steps in. Press is calling. Local and regional. Malik straightens. How do they know? Sandra doesn't answer right away. She checks her phone. Scanner chatter. Someone tipped. Who? Doesn't matter, she says. The question is what we do next. Malik stands and walks to the window. The city stretches below, glass and steel stacked in quiet confidence. He helped shape part of that skyline. He wonders how much of it knows his name. They're going to make me look like a liar, he says. They'll try to make you look uncertain, Sandra corrects. That's easier. She joins him at the window. We request full records. Dispatch logs. Prior complaints against the officer. Will we get them? Eventually, she says, after resistance. Malik turns. How bad is his record? Sandra hesitates. 3 complaints in 7 years. All dismissed, Malik guesses. All unsubstantiated, she confirms. Same language, same outcome. Malik laughs once, humorless. Patterns matter everywhere except where they matter most. Sandra nods. Internal Affairs will open review. They'll say it shows transparency. And they'll slow walk it, she says. Hope attention moves on. The assistant returns, face tense. There's an article up already. Sandra takes the phone, scans quickly, then hands it to Malik. Police detain man after suspicious activity near construction site. No name, no charges, just implication. They didn't even call me, Malik says. They rarely do, Sandra replies. Official sources are easier. Malik scrolls. The comments are already filling. If he had nothing to hide, why was he there so late? Police have a tough job. Bet there's more to this story. He hands the phone back. At what point, he asks quietly, does this stop being about that night? Sandra meets his eyes. When we force it to be. She pulls up another file. Here's your advantage. Permits, emails, design approvals. Your signature is everywhere on that project. They can still ignore it, Malik says. Yes, she agrees. But ignoring evidence is harder when other people are watching. Malik's phone buzzes. An unknown number. He answers. Hello, Mr. Carter. A woman says, this is Lena Brooks with Channel 8. We're doing a follow-up on the North Harbor incident. Malik looks at Sandra. I don't comment on ongoing legal matters, he says. I understand, Lena replies. But viewers are asking why a man who helped build a site was treated like a trespasser. Malik's breath catches. You know who I am. Yes, she says, and others will soon. He ends the call and looks at Sandra. The paper trail is shifting. Slowly, loudly, and it's no longer just theirs to control. The first document Sandra requests comes back redacted. The second takes 3 days longer than the law allows. By the end of the week, Malik can predict the pattern before it happens. They delay. They soften language. They call it procedure. Malik sits at his kitchen table late at night. Laptop open, blue light reflecting off half-empty coffee mugs. Sandra's emails stack in a neat, infuriating line, each one careful, each one edged with warning. Internal Affairs requests extension. Department cites administrative backlog. Officer placed on modified duty. Modified duty. Desk work. No admission of fault. No acknowledgement of harm. They're protecting him, Malik says into the phone. Sandra doesn't disagree. They're protecting the system. He's just a piece of it. Malik pinches the bridge of his nose. That system put me in the back of a cruiser for breathing wrong. Yes, she says, and it's betting you'll get tired. He looks around the apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows, framed engineering awards, photos from site openings where he stands smiling in a hard hat, evidence of a life built carefully, deliberately. I don't get tired easily, he says. Sandra exhales. I know, but this isn't just about endurance. It's about exposure. A knock at the door interrupts them. Malik opens it to find his sister, Renee, arms crossed, eyes sharp with concern. You look like hell, she says, stepping inside. Good to see you too, Malik replies. She sets a grocery bag on the counter. Mom's worried. I know. She thinks you should let this go. Malik turns slowly. Does she? She thinks you already proved your point. Renee says, You're out. You're safe. Safe, Malik repeats. Renee softens. I'm not saying she's right. I'm saying she's scared. So am I, Malik says. That's the problem. He gestures to the laptop. They're counting on silence, on gratitude, on me disappearing back into my life like nothing happened. Renee leans against the counter. And if you don't, then they push back, he says. Harder. As if summoned, Malik's phone buzzes. Another unknown number. He answers. Malik Carter. Mr. Carter. The voice says, Male. Calm. Polished. This is Captain Howard with the North Harbor Police Department. Malik straightens. Yes. We'd like to resolve this matter amicably. Renee's eyes narrow. Go on, Malik says. There's been a misunderstanding, the captain continues. We regret any inconvenience you experienced. Inconvenience, Malik repeats. An unfortunate interaction, the captain says smoothly. These situations are complex. They're not, Malik says. They're patterned. A pause. We're prepared to offer a written apology. Off the record. Renee lets out a short laugh. And in exchange, Malik asks, "We'd appreciate discretion," the captain says. Public statements tend to inflame things unnecessarily. Malik's voice drops. "You mean accountability?" "We mean moving forward," the captain replies. Malik looks at Renee, at the worry in her face, at the calculation behind it. "No," Malik says. Another pause, this one colder. "Think carefully," the captain says. "You have a lot to lose." "So do you," Malik replies and ends a call. Silence fills the apartment. Renee exhales. "You just made enemies." "I already had them," Malik says. The next morning, the permit office delays an inspection on Malik's project. No explanation, just rescheduling. By afternoon, an anonymous email arrives. "Drop it." Sandra forwards it to a digital forensics team. Without comment, that evening, Lena Brooks requests an interview. Malik sits across from her in a quiet studio, lights soft, camera idle for now. She watches him with professional patience. "You don't have to do this," she says. "Once you speak, there's no rewind." "I know," Malik replies. "Why now?" she asks. Malik considers the question. He thinks about the holding room, the report, the apology that wasn't really an apology. Because silence is part of the architecture. He says, "Finally, and I help design structures. I know when one is built to keep people out." Lena nods slowly. "We'll fact-check everything." "You should," Malik says. They didn't. The red recording light clicks on. Outside the studio, protests begin to form. Small at first. Handwritten signs. Familiar slogans. Inside, Malik speaks clearly. Carefully. He names no villains. He presents only facts. And still, the room feels heavier with each word. Because once silence cracks, it never breaks cleanly. The segment airs at 6. Malik watches alone in his office. Lights off, city humming below the windows. Lena's voice is steady, restrained. The footage is clean. His words are clipped to essentials. No anger, no pleading, just sequence time. Fact. The first image is a sight at night, floodlit steel and shadow. Then his face. Then the words, lead civil engineer. The phone starts ringing before the segment ends. Sandra texts, "Stay put. Don't respond yet." By 6:12, his inbox floods. Colleagues, former classmates, unknown addresses. Some messages are careful, supportive, measured. Others are brittle with suspicion. "Why were you there after hours?" Police don't stop people for nothing. "Proud of you." He closes a laptop and leans back. Exposure feels less like light and more like pressure. At the precinct, the response is faster than internal affairs ever was. A statement posts online within the hour. It speaks of professionalism, of ongoing review, of community trust. It names no officer. It names no harm. The union follows louder. It calls the coverage irresponsible. It warns of morale. It invokes danger. Malik reads it twice, jaw set. The language is familiar, defensive without denial, aggressive without admission. Sandra calls. They're circling. "Let them," Malik says. "You sure?" she asks. "No," he answers. "But I'm ready." By nightfall, the body cam clip leaks. It's short, grainy, starts too late, but it shows the cuffs, the shove, the command to stay still. It shows Malik's hands empty, palms open, shaking just enough to be human. The clip spreads faster than the official statements ever could. By morning, the officer's name trends. The department places him on administrative leave. "This is progress," Sandra says, cautious. "It's containment," Malik replies. The site shuts down for the day after an inspection fails on a technicality. Paperwork, minor discrepancies, nothing urgent, enough to stall. Malik drives past the gate and feels the absence like a bruise. At home, Renee watches the news with the volume low. They're saying you're making it about race. Malik sits beside her. Because if it's not about race, it's about power. And they don't want that either. A panel debate fills the screen. Two commentators argue tone. One asks whether Malik could have handled the stop better. Renee mutes it. They always ask that. Yes, Malik says, because it shifts responsibility. His phone buzzes again. An investor this time. Careful voice. Concerned language. We support you, the man says. But the optics are complicated. Malik closes his eyes. My work hasn't changed. No, the investor agrees. The environment has. After the call, Malik stands at the window and watches a protest march past below, signs bobbing like punctuation marks. Some read his name, others don't. The cause is larger now, looser, harder to contain. Sandra sends another message. Hearing scheduled. 2 weeks. Malik replies with a single word. Good. The officer appears on television that evening, flanked by a union representative. He looks composed. Apologetic without apologizing. I followed protocol, he says. If mistakes were made, they were unintentional. Malik turns the television off. Intent is a refuge. He thinks about the building, about how steel carries load, about how failure travels when one joint is weak. That night, an envelope slides under his door. No return address. Inside, a printed photo of his car at the stop. On the back, a single sentence. Careful what you expose. Malik doesn't sleep. In the morning, he meets Sandra at the site. Gates locked, wind cutting across concrete. She holds the envelope with gloved hands. This changes things, she says. It clarifies them, Malik replies. They stand together, facing the unfinished structure as cameras gather beyond the fence. The city waits. The system adjusts. Exposure has done its work. Now comes resistance. Malik knows the balance has shifted, but not settled. Exposure never guarantees justice. It only rearranges leverage. He feels in the calls that stop, the meetings postponed, the silence where cooperation used to be. At the site fence, someone has taped a note to the mesh, ink bleeding in the rain. We see you. He pockets it like a talisman. Sandra briefs him on next steps, subpoenas, depositions, timelines that stretch. Malik listens, nodding, asking questions that keep him upright. He schedules a walkthrough for the day the gates reopen, insists on being present. Presence matters, even when it costs. That evening, he drafts a statement and deletes it twice. He keeps the third version. Short, factual, calm. He sends it to Sandra and turns off his phone. For the first time since the stop, he allows himself to sit with the fear without flinching. Exposure has opened the door. Walking through it will demand everything he built. Tomorrow, accountability will test whether the structure holds under sustained public pressure and legal scrutiny. Retaliation doesn't announce itself. It arrives disguised as routine. The email lands at 7:43 a.m., subject line neutral, tone polite. Additional compliance review required. Malik reads it twice, then forwards it to Sandra without comment. By 9, a city inspector stands at the locked gate with a clipboard and an expression that suggests he'd rather be anywhere else. He won't meet Malik's eyes. New checklist, the inspector says, came down this morning. Malik scans the pages. Minor items. Dust control signage. A temporary railing moved 2 inches. Nothing that wasn't already scheduled. Can we address these today? Malik asks. The inspector hesitates. We'll have to reschedule. For when? He shrugs. Calendar's tight. At 10, a subcontractor pulls out. At 11, another asks to pause work until things settle. By noon, the site is quiet again, wind tugging at plastic sheeting like a warning. Sandra calls. They're testing your tolerance. They're stalling, Malik says. Yes, she agrees, and hoping you'll make a mistake. The threats arrive next, anonymous and clumsy. A voicemail with static and breathing. An email that calls him ungrateful. Another that calls him dangerous. Malik saved them all, hand steady, pulse loud. Renee shows up with groceries and worry. You shouldn't be alone. I'm not, Malik says, gesturing to the stacks of documents, the open laptop, the quiet hum of preparation. I'm busy. She studies his face. You're shrinking. He considers the word. I'm narrowing, he says. There's a difference. That afternoon, a meeting with investors goes sideways. The questions circle optics, timing, reputational drag. No one says the word race. They don't have to. We believe in the project, one says. But uncertainty makes people nervous. Malik nods. So does silence. They exchange looks. The meeting ends without resolution. Outside, reporters wait. Malik keeps walking. At the precinct, the officer files a supplemental report. It adds color, adjectives, concern. It suggests Malik's calm was calculated, that his knowledge of procedures implied prior contact with law enforcement. Sandra reads it aloud over the phone. They're reframing competence as threat. Malik closes his eyes. Of course they are. Internal Affairs schedules a hearing, then pushes it back 3 days. Administrative conflict. Scheduling constraints. Always something. On social media, the tone shifts. Support curdles into skepticism. Accounts appear overnight, repeating the same phrases, asking the same questions. Someone leaks Malik's address. Sandra locks it down within an hour. That night, Malik drives aimlessly, city lights blurring. At a stoplight, a driver leans out and shouts, "You should have kept your mouth shut." The light turns green. Malik drives on. He parks near the site and walks the fence, fingers brushing coal metal. He knows every measurement here, every load path. He remembers the early meetings, the skepticism, the way he won people over with precision. He wonders if precision can still win. A patrol car rolls past, slows, then continues. Malik watches until it disappears. Sandra texts, "They're offering mediation. No admission. Confidential." He types, deletes, types again. No. Minutes later, another message. "They'll escalate." Malik stares at the screen. So will we. The next morning, the union files a grievance against the department for placing the officer on leave. The language is indignant, paternal. It claims harm to morale. It does not mention Malik. The city announces an audit of the project. Press release. Accountability theater. Malik steps to the podium later that day, flanked by Sandra and Lena. He speaks without notes. "I am not the story," he says. "The system is." A shout rises from the crowd. A sign waves. Cameras click. After, Sandra pulls him aside. "They're rattled." "Good," Malik says. "That means pressure is working." "It also means they'll look for leverage," she warns. "They already have," Malik replies. "They always do." That evening, Malik receives a final message. No sender. No threat. Just a photo of the building at dusk. Crane silhouetted, sky bruised purple. Under it, a caption. "We decide what gets built." Malik deletes the message and saves the image. He knows what retaliation looks like now. He also knows its limits. Systems resist until they crack. Pressure finds seams. Malik has spent a career calculating margins of failure. He will not be the variable they control. The hearing room is smaller than Malik expected. No windows. Beige walls. A long table scarred by years of elbows and paperwork. 3 members of the Internal Affairs panel sit at one end, faces arranged into practice neutrality. A city attorney occupies a chair to the side, flipping through a binder as if the outcome is already footnoted. Malik takes a seat beside Sandra. The officer sits across from them in uniform, posture rigid, eyes forward. He does not look at Malik. A recorder clicks on. This proceeding concerns the conduct of Officer Daniel Hargreave on the night of. Sandra's pen moves. Malik focuses on breathing. The questioning begins with the officer's account. Calm. Measured. He describes a suspicious vehicle, inconsistent answers, concern for safety. He mentions Malik's elevated demeanor. Sandra waits. When it's Malik's turn, she stands. "Mr. Carter, can you describe your presence at the North Harbor site?" Malik answers clearly. He cites dates, permits, emails. He names supervisors. He explains design phases and site access protocols. The language is precise. Boring, even. Truth often is. The panel listens. The officer shifts. Sandra moves to the timeline. At what time did you activate your body camera? The officer hesitates. Immediately upon initiating contact. Sandra nods. Records show activation occurred 3 minutes later. The officer clears his throat. There may have been a delay. 3 minutes, Sandra repeats. Is that typical? No, he says. Is it acceptable? Sometimes, he replies. In high-stress situations. Sandra's voice remains even. Mr. Carter was compliant. Your report describes him as nervous. Did he resist? No. Did he threaten you? No. Did he attempt to flee? No. Then what constituted high stress? Silence. The city attorney objects. The panel chair allows the question. The officer's jaw tightens. The totality of circumstances. Sandra steps closer. Let's examine those circumstances. She introduces the posted authorization list, enlarged on a screen. Malik's name is there. She introduces emails sent that afternoon confirming late work. She introduces site access logs. The officer looks at the screen for the first time. Were you aware of these documents that night? Sandra asks. No. Did you request verification? No. Why not? The officer hesitates. I made a judgment call. Sandra nods. Based on what? The officer glances at the panel. Training. Experience. Sandra turns to Malik. Mr. Carter, how many times have you been stopped by police while leaving a work site? Malik pauses. This was the fourth. Murmurs ripple. Were you detained those other times? No. What was different? The officer shifts again. The panel chair clears her throat. Mr. Carter, please limit your answers to facts. Malik meets her gaze. I am. Sandra rests her hands on the table. Officer Hargreave, your supplemental report suggests Mr. Carter's familiarity with procedure indicated prior law enforcement contact. Yes, the officer says. Are you aware Mr. Carter's firm requires safety briefings that include police interaction protocols? The officer blinks. No. Did you inquire? No. Sandra closes the binder. No further questions. The city attorney rises, attempting rehabilitation. He asks about danger, about unpredictability, about officer safety. The officer recites policy. The answers feel thinner now. When it's over, the panel announces a recess. In the hallway, Malik leans against the wall. His hands tremble. Sandra places a steadying hand on his shoulder. You did well. Did it matter? Malik asks. She doesn't answer immediately. Then, yes. They're called back in. The panel chair speaks slowly. We have identified inconsistencies in the officer's report and deviations from protocol. The officer stares straight ahead. We will recommend disciplinary action, she continues, including suspension pending further review. The room exhales. It is not victory. It is not enough, but it is a crack. Outside, cameras wait. The officer exits through a side door. Malik steps into the light. Mr. Carter, a reporter calls. Do you feel vindicated? Malik considers the question. I feel heard, he says. That's different. Sandra squeezes his arm. The city attorney avoids his eyes. As Malik walks away, his phone buzzes. A message from the permit office. Inspection approved. Gates reopening tomorrow. He looks back once at the building, rising patient and unyielding against the sky. Systems don't confess. They adjust. And today, something adjusted. The gates reopen at dawn. Malik stands at the entrance as the first trucks roll in, engines rumbling low, familiar, grounding. Workers nod as they pass, some offering quiet smiles, others just steady eye contact. No applause, no speeches, just motion returning where it was interrupted. It feels earned. By mid-morning, the official notice arrives. Officer Daniel Hargreave is terminated pending criminal review for falsifying reports and unlawful detention. The department's statement is precise, restrained, unmistakably reluctant. It frames a decision as a commitment to standards rather than an admission of failure. Malik reads it twice, then sets the phone down. Sandra joins him at the site, hard hat tucked under her arm. Prosecutor's office confirmed, she says. Charges filed. Malik exhales slowly. He hadn't realized he'd been holding that breath for weeks. Congratulations, she adds, then softens. I know that's not the right word. No, Malik says, but it'll do. The officer's face appears on the news that afternoon. No uniform now. Expression tight as he exits a courthouse surrounded by microphones. He doesn't answer questions. He doesn't apologize. The union releases another statement. Quieter this time, filled with concern and distance. Public opinion moves the way it always does. Fractured, loud, relentless. Some call it justice. Others call it a witch hunt. Malik stops reading comments altogether. That evening, the building hosts its soft opening. No ribbon, no press stage, just lights warming concrete and glass, voices echoing into newly claimed space. Malik walks the floors alone first, hand trailing along walls he once knew only as drawings. He pauses at a window overlooking the access road where the stop happened. The asphalt looks ordinary now, innocent. It always does afterward. Renee finds him there. Mom's watching coverage. She says, "She cried." Malik smiles faintly. "Tell her I'm okay." "You are?" Renee asks. He considers the question. "I'm intact," he says. "That counts." A knock interrupts them. Lena Brooks steps inside, camera crew waiting at a respectful distance. "We're running a follow-up tonight," she says. "Your reaction?" Malik shakes his head. "Not tonight." She nods. "Understood." As she leaves, Renee studies him. "You don't owe anyone anything anymore." "I know," Malik says. "That's why I'm choosing." The next week brings settlements, policy revisions, mandatory retraining announcements. The department unveils new language about bias and oversight. It sounds familiar. It also sounds like something cracked open. Malik testifies before a city council committee, not as an accuser but as an expert. He talks about systems, safeguards, design principles that fail when accountability is optional. He never raises his voice. He doesn't have to. When it's over, a council member thanks him for his courage. Malik replies, "Courage is expensive. Prevention is cheaper." The quote circulates. At the site, work accelerates. Deadlines tighten. Malik throws himself into calculations and coordination, grateful for numbers that behave predictably. At night, the stop replays anyway. The lights, the cuffs, the pause before everything changed. Trauma doesn't vanish because justice arrives. Sandra checks in often. "You sleeping?" "Some." Malik lies. She doesn't press. Weeks later, the building opens fully. A crowd gathers. Residents, officials, workers who poured sweat into place. Malik stands at the back this time, anonymous by choice. As the doors open, he feels a swell of pride edged with something sharper. Loss, maybe, of ease, of illusion. A man approaches him, middle-aged, nervous. "I was on patrol that night," he says quietly. Different shift. Malik studies his face. "Okay. I should have said something," the man adds. "I didn't." Malik nods once. "Next time," he says. The man swallows. "Next time." When the crowd thins, Malik steps outside. The city hums, indifferent and alive. He takes out his phone and deletes the last saved photo of the stop. He doesn't need it anymore. Justice didn't give him back the night. It didn't erase the fear or the calculations that will linger, but it forced a reckoning. It proved that exposure, sustained and careful, can bend structures built to resist it. Malik looks up at the building, complete now, bearing weight exactly as designed. He built this, and when they try to break him for it, the system learned slowly, reluctantly, that structures fail when they're not built to hold everyone. Malik turns and walks back inside, carrying both the cost and the proof forward with him.